move. What I'll do is there we go. Okay. Let me do this one then. Okay, so that was good. How is this recording already? Hello, Angela, did you just join us? Hello, Angela, are you there? Hi, Kate.
Hello.
Hi.
How goes it?
Good, how are you? It's like we have Angela and Lisa Borchetta on.
Hi. I will get screen sharing going.
For some reason, my picture decided not to show up. Can you see me?
No.
Stop video. Start video. Toshiba. Looks like it's not showing me, but that's okay. I just had it. Okay, so Lisa's on. Lisa, can you hear us?
Nope, lost Angela. Hopefully she'll hop back on in a second. Oh,
And there's Tiffany.
hi. Hi.
I just figured out why mine wasn't working.
Oh, good. So welcome everyone. We're so excited to have you here. We're just for a minute. Hopefully you guys have at least a pen and notebook in front of you, if not the exercise around values that we sent out. I also encourage you to find the Zoom group chat window because we're going to use a mix of chat-in and live communication throughout our time today. And we would love, while everyone is getting settled in, to go ahead and get in the group chat and introduce yourself and help us get the conversation started around what is the difference between strengths and values. And I'll go ahead and get started so you guys can find the chat.
So yes, everybody, so as you kind of come in, just as people start coming in, we just ask that you do turn on your video so we can see your smiling faces, and that you make sure that your mic is muted, and as we move through our time together, we'll ask for you to unmute your mic. But as you think about the difference between strengths and values, there's no right or wrong answer here, just getting you guys engaged as you pop into our session today. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and mute your mic. That way we don't have any reverberation between everybody coming on. Excellent.
Well, we are hitting the top of the hour, Mindy.
I know, so we can go ahead and get started. So, didn't really get anybody that put anybody in there around the difference between strengths and values. So we will go ahead and launch into that. We have Tiffany says, I feel like a strength is something you are, where a value is something you believe in. Judith says that strengths are innate to you, values are ideas you believe are important to live by. Very good. And Angela says strengths flow from your character traits. Yes. So very good. So as you've probably already had a chance to kind of look at our screen, you guys are all right. Strengths are a good or beneficial quality or attribute of a person. Our personal values are the general expression of what is most important to you. So as you continue to read what's on that slide, I see that Lisa came in and says, strengths, what are you good at, have a skill for, or proclivity for. Value is something you care about. Beliefs, what gives you meaning. So great job, everybody. Love seeing you guys get in here into this chat section. So Kate is going to take us to the next screen. And so for here, I'm going to introduce myself and Kate's going to introduce herself. And if you can, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat, where you're from and how do you like to spend your time. My name is Mindy Gillis, and I am a senior leadership advisor at Mayo Clinic. And my strengths are, my top strength is spirituality, sense of purpose, and faith. Then gratitude, love of learning, judgment, critical thinking, open-mindedness, and leadership. And my values came out to be adventure, growth and learning, trust, joy, and spirituality.
Yeah, I love that Mindy and I are working together, because she and I have a very nice complementary skill set here in terms of strengths and values, which we'll continue to talk about, of how do you work with others who support you. And I hope everyone has your strengths in front of you today. Hi, I'm Kate Peabody. I'm a well-being coach for bright, successful, professional women ready to move beyond their anxiety. I'm here in Colorado, which is beautiful and sunshining today. And my strengths are creativity, perspective, forgiveness, judgment, leadership, and then I've got that love one hanging on there. And my values are empowerment, creativity, authenticity, hard work, and curiosity. So while there is some similarity there in what I value in my strengths, as we just talked about, those things are a little bit different and they come to life a little differently. So let's dive in.
Dive in. Thank you. I've been trying to mute, so if I seem like I'm coming in and out, that's just because I'm just trying to make sure my background is muted. So we're going to identify strengths and virtues with a global and situational context. And so as we move forward, we want to start with 10 reasons to focus on your strengths. Some of you may have heard this before, and this may be new to you, but it's so important that we focus on our strengths. And research has shown that if we focus on our strengths, we can exponentially increase our strengths. But if we focus on the things that we need to grow in or we have opportunities to grow in, we can still work on those, but to move the dial is a lot harder. You can still grow, but not as exponentially in your strengths. So just some top reasons to focus on your strengths is, one, we feel happier because it's something that we do, that we're strong in. We experience less stress, we're healthier, more energy, we're more satisfied with our lives, we're more confident. We experience faster growth and development because remember that exponential growth, we're more creative and agile at work, feel more satisfied and experience more meaning in work, and then we're more engaged in our work as well. When we put some intention around utilizing our strengths, we really do have, that puts us in that positive light, that's around that positive psychology. And then the last one I like to say is just that even managers, so if you manage people if you focus on their strengths, they're gonna have greater performance and greater success. So, do you know your strengths? And this is a Kate slide, so we'll pass it on back over to Kate.
Thanks, Mindy. There are so many good reasons to know your strengths, and I love that we've started seeing some folks chat in your strengths. Please share, because it is really important to understand those strengths. And when I was introduced to the VIA Strength Finder, it was about understanding first and foremost those top 5 or 6 core strengths to leverage. And that was really exciting, thinking about, this is my natural, diverse pack of things that I can go attack the world with. And as I've continued to learn more about how our strengths work, and research continues to come forward, yay, research, we come to understand more about what the middle strengths can do for you, as well as those lower ones. And the middle ones, I'd really love for you to look at that core and think of 1 to 2 that could help you boost those top core strengths. For instance, courage is one of mine that lies in that middle. And I think about, how can I pull on courage every once in a while to be that great leader, to really just be authentic, right? And so it's really nice just to pick 1 or 2 of there that you think, I could really lean into this and enhance this, and it's gonna make my top strengths that much stronger. And when we look at the bottom ones, these aren't things that you should feel bad about yourself in terms of they're at the lower, right? Once again, we just have a unique combination. However, we do know that 5 of our strengths are really about happiness. And if any of those happiness strengths lie in those bottom strengths, making an improvement on that can really help with depression. For instance, hope is the only strength that has been shown to provide resilience. So while all of your strengths can help you get out of a tough spot, the more you cultivate hope, which is being able to see many different routes to many different positive outcomes, the better you're gonna be able to get through that whole experience without hitting so much as a down. Gratitude is another happiness strength that if it's in those lower ones, start working on getting it higher with a regular gratitude practice. And as I continue to dive into this, right, I know a lot of you are probably like, oh yeah, we get it, strengths. Well, how many of you spend some time exploring the virtues behind your strengths, right? So each of our strengths are grounded in this bigger context of how we see the world and how we approach life and how we approach others. And so when we look at what virtues are related to our core strengths, it's good just to take an understanding of, am I weighted one place more than the other? And what might that say about who I am and how I'm engaging in the world? And with others who might be coming from a very different place, right? Earlier I said Mindy and I, we are nicely aligned and compatible, right? But if you look at where my strengths lie, they lie in wisdom and justice and moderation. And Mindy is coming from this place of transcendence and a lot of meaning. And so working together, we have to figure out how to tie her very meaningful, connected to something larger way of thinking, whereas I'm coming from, how do we learn? How do we get this knowledge? What's this process? So I'd really like you to think about what your combination of strengths is telling you about your virtues and how you might go about navigating the world and working with others in a more effective way. And once you start to have this balance of, this is my strengths, this is my virtues, now we want to add that values piece. Mindy, please talk to us more about values.
I'm happy to talk to you about the values. So our values are important because that's what really drives us. It's how we make our big decisions and how we subconsciously live and interact in every moment in our life. We leverage our strengths from a value base, and values help us keep our strengths in that authentic alignment. And they can change over time. And at some point, our values might conflict, and you'll have to make a decision. And I'll tell you about a time when I was coaching a physician leader at Mayo, and their area had to make tons of changes, and they were not the best changes for any leader to have to do, but it was what was best for the organization. And so one of his top values was loyalty. And so he was very loyal to the people, his employees that he had, but he felt like if he was going to be loyal to Mayo and make all these changes, that he can then not be loyal to his employees, and really felt he kept, like, his values kept rubbing up against each other. And so through some coaching and some positive psychology coaching, we looked through, how do we make this an and instead of an or? So many times we get stuck and we think it's an or. How do I be loyal to Mayo or to my employees? And so we talked about how to make it more of an and. And so we talked about, and I asked him some really good questions. How do you provide both loyalty to both your employees and your organization? And what we were able to get to at the end of the coaching was that, yes, this was a non-negotiable. This was something that they can't change. This leader had to get behind the change and talk positively about it. But how he was able to put the and in there was to say, okay, these are the changes that have to happen, but we as a team get to choose how they happen. And so we was able to still show loyalty to the team and loyal to the organization by providing them a way to think about the how it's going to get done, not just the fact that it was going to get done. So it was a way for us to help move out of that or mindset and into that and mindset. And so we're going to take you through some exercises to help you figure out your own core values. Kate?
Yeah, thanks, Mindy. Values are something that change over life. So maybe you've done values work before, and maybe this feels like, oh, I'm so strong in my values. But even if you feel that way, I encourage you to play along with us, because you never know when something shifts or when a new perspective all of a sudden wins out. So hopefully you guys have your exercise worksheet that I sent around. If not, just a pen and paper, some sticky notes will do just fine. I'm going to go through this exercise and share my examples along the way. I'd love you guys just to be taking notes of whatever's in your head. And then I'd love to share at the end what you guys learned about your values, how they're prioritized, and more. So I would love to talk, but let's just first dive in and do a little bit of reflecting. So I want you to start by thinking about a couple moments from your life, and these should be both personal moments as well as professional, because we really want to take a look at all areas of our life. And think about a moment when you were really happy and a moment when you felt really proud. I'd also like you to look at a moment where you felt fulfilled or satisfied, and one when you were frustrated or angry. And really look at the situation of, who was I with? What was I doing? Why was this so important to me? And what was kind of contributing to these feelings? And I'll give you an example. So I think of a moment when I am incredibly happy and at peace. And it's when I'm out in the mountains hiking around with my partner and my puppy. And it's just really fun and beautiful. And I feel like I can be in the moment. A time when I feel really fulfilled and satisfied. Really, these days it's every day, because it's when I get to work with my clients and when I hang up with my clients. I love being in the thinking, problem-solving mode with them, and really helping them see the world a different way and how they can attack their lives differently. Things that I'm really proud of. A big one was jumping off the Fortune 500 ladder a couple years ago and just saying, I don't know what's going to happen, but I trust in myself. And every day it's been better since. And then I also think about a time when I was really frustrated and really angry. And it was when I had all the accountability in the world, but no authority on this huge program that involved hundreds of people having to do their fair share of work. And people just didn't step up. They didn't follow through. They clearly didn't care as much as I did. Super, super frustrating. So step 2 now is to look at those moments and suss out what values are happening that are making me feel either good or bad. So I look at that happy moment of being in the mountains, being with my partner, and it's all about relationships and authenticity and just being and living. I look at that moment when I was fulfilled and satisfied when I'm working with my clients. It's all about empowerment and curiosity and creativity. I look at that moment of leaving my job when I was so proud. Once again, I see empowerment, authenticity. I look at that time when I was really frustrated and angry, people weren't pulling their weight, and I see hard work and teamwork. So out of this exercise, I hope you're starting to feel those things that are really important to you. Either that feel great when you're doing really great things, or really gnaw on you when something is just not happening. So once you kind of have that handful, and maybe you're going to come up with 10 values, maybe you're just going to come up with 5, right? I had a lot of repeating ones. I then want you to narrow and prioritize to your top 5. And why this is so important is because, as Mindy just shared, our values at some point in time always come in conflict, not only with themselves, as Mindy showed, but with each other. You know, I have a client who's continually pulling herself between the values of family and self-development, right? And so how can she look at that world and either make the and decision, come to that creatively, but stop feeling so darn frustrated and stuck and upset with her every time that situation presents with herself, where she's so torn between 2 obstacles, right? And so now she clearly knows, and she's made the decision to prioritize family over self-development. And she's made that decision. And it doesn't mean that self-development isn't important. She makes sure she works it in. But in those spur of the moment, I need to take action, she just knows I'm going with family. Everything else is going to work out, right? And so it's really important that we have that prioritized. And once we understand what these values are, let's just do a double check and understand, make sure they really align with the vision of yourself. And would you feel comfortable sharing those with others? And when you think about, you know, how you're going to go about living this week, does that make sense? So I know that was a really fast run through. You guys have the worksheet to do in your own time, but I'm wondering, I'd love to hear from all of you if you have discovered values that maybe weren't at the top of your radar before, or yeah, anything that you might have learned in this exercise.
So Kate, I wonder if we could get both their strengths and the values that they just came up with your exercise.
Yeah, if you guys know your values, please chat them in, or please share them now and how you got to them. I'd love to hear a story.
Yeah.
Anyone feeling brave to chime in?
Everybody's being that nice, and I'm not going to be the first one. But if somebody would be willing to share. Oh, thanks, Tiffany, for adding in your values: passion, adventure, citizenship, kindness, and respect. Anybody else have anything? You can either unmute yourself and say it.
I heard from Angela: honesty, integrity, perseverance, authenticity, truth. Very strong.
Very strong. Anybody else?
So it's Judith.
Hi, Judith.
Hi.
Hi, Judith.
So one of mine is resilience and courage as a value, but it's not necessarily it didn't come up in one of my strengths as very high. So that's very, you know, it's interesting. I have to say that I'm not sure that the VIA system is always accurate. I was very surprised by the way it rated things. I'm not sure if it would be the same if I did it again. I probably should do it again. But, you know, I think that it's difficult to use these words and throw around, you know, courage and resilience, and, you know, they mean different things to different people. And so I'm kind of struggling with, you know, when is something a strength? When is something a value? Because we just heard somebody say perseverance. Well, that's a strength, but it's also a value. Maybe there are a lot of them that are both. But I think it's important to try to be more specific in and use examples as you've been doing, because you know, for example, with me, I have made some incredibly challenging transitions in my life, and have learned over time that that's a strength of mine, is being able to make it through tough times and come out on the other end. But perseverance did not come up as one of my strengths. I don't know what, you know, none of the things that go into doing that came up as strong strengths. So that's, I guess, what I'm wondering about. I don't know if you have any thoughts about it.
Oh, I have lots of thoughts. Thanks for sharing, first of all. And I love that you're seeing how they are maybe relating together, but unsure of how that is. And okay, I've got this perseverance and courage, right? And this is how I see and approach the world. And this is what I want to bring. And then you have these natural strengths that enable you to actually do things. I have also looked at, you know, the Strength Finder is another good strength assessment. I don't know when the last time you took the VIA was, but I've definitely taken it more than once myself as well. I think having that, you know, curiosity and kind of questioning all of that stuff is really important. You know, we know ourselves better than anyone else in the world. And if you believe perseverance is more than a virtue, it's core of who you are, then, you know, screw whatever the test tells you. Lean into it and know that's who you are, right? I think that's beautiful, that self-awareness. Yeah. Mindy, do you have any thoughts? You're on mute.
Well, and I just want to add, I think that you've grown in your perseverance due to the fact that you've had to go through so much in your life, Judith. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So I think core to your values is perseverance. Like your value is I'm going to persevere no matter what. Now, strengths are different. I would say like perseverance is like that can be someone's strength, but I think you've developed other strengths because of your value of perseverance that helps you to continue to move forward. Is that helpful? Okay, good.
And I love the conversation about getting specific. That's how we're going to close out today, is really understanding what does it look like to live these in action. So great segue.
Yep. All right.
Yeah. And so when we look at these strengths and our values, and we've talked a little bit about what happens when they start to get out of whack or you don't know what's going on. And really, anytime you feel a huge sense of procrastination, of general ickiness, analysis paralysis, even depressed, I would do a values and strengths test. Like that is one of my first mental checks now when something isn't feeling right or going right, is just that quick check of, is something going on here that doesn't align with my values? Are my values out of alignment? And am I trying to go about this in a way that isn't actually natural in me? Am I trying to go about it in a certain sense, right? I spent a lot of years emulating leaders that I really loved and looked up to before I found leaders that actually aligned and worked the same way I did. And so it's really important to just take that check. And I don't know if anyone's working on something out there that they've been trying to improve or something they really like to accomplish. And maybe now with the values work, you're seeing why you haven't moved forward. Has anyone seen some of that come to light where you've gotten stuck and now you're kind of saying, aha? Any ahas?
Angela looks like she has one. She's like, my value is not to speak up. I'm just kidding.
I've got that face where people call on me, I guess. I guess for me, I'm in what I call a state of transition. I've recently retired and am now launching a business in coaching and consulting. And I'm in this place where doing something different and new that's pulling from my passion and strengths. And I am getting stuck kind of occasionally as I take this journey. So one of the things that I'm kind of stuck on right now that I'm actually addressing now and going to be going into more detail after this call. I'm actually writing a business plan. And so I've just been stuck on that business plan, but I've been doing some things to become unstuck. So in listening to you today, I'm trying to now capture my values and my strengths with the reason why I'm getting stuck.
I love that. And, I definitely believe in teamwork makes the dream work, and understanding not weaknesses to beat yourself up, but to know, hey, I need a partner in here. Mm-hmm. And like when it comes to developing a business plan, man, like more help you can get, right? Like that you can go around in your head. I've written a lot of those. And that's when you say, okay, like there's got to be a local business network, or, the Chamber of Commerce has lots of free support for small business owners, and just stop beating yourself up about it and know that your strengths are all of these other things that are going to go into serving your clients. And yeah. I love that.
I would also say write down your values and put them in front of you with your strengths so that every morning that you wake up, you're continuing to look at them, and we're going to talk about them. And there's Kate's right there. Because it's just so important to reflect on what your goals are and what it is that you want in the morning, because that kind of sets you up for the day. This is not part of our thing today, but my husband and I, we talk about name 15 things that you're thankful for. And we do 15 and not 5, because you can always come up with the same 5 every day, can't you? So in the morning time, I like for us to really focus and be intentional, which we're getting into the next piece, around what it is that we want, what are our goals, and try not to live, because we all do this. I do this too. Live in on autopilot, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But Angela, kudos to you for finding someone, because my collaboration is a strength of mine and it's one of my values. And so, especially writing a business plan. Eek. Like, we're people. So let's bring another person in to help me with that. So yeah, awesome. Good luck with that. So moving on to living with intention. Thank you, Kate. We'll move on to our next piece. If you can just move the slide for me. So when we live with intention, it's really about what we choose to focus on. How do you want to show up every day? And how do you want people to feel when they leave your presence? If you can answer those questions every morning, that'll set you up for the right day. I like to show this picture because it's very neat. This is by Charles Surratt. You might have seen it in the 80s movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, when they went to the Museum of Modern Art and they sat there and stared at this painting. This painting is actually a form of art called pointillism. And what I like about it is that there are millions of dots that make up this picture. So someone was intentional with each dot, and maybe that dot didn't make sense at first, but as you continue to be intentional and you continue to add the dots to your picture, we can continue to see here that as we all the way down here on the bottom right, you see all those dots, they don't make any sense. But we continue to be intentional with each dot that we put down, and then it starts to make more sense. And then if you go to the left, it starts to make more sense. And then at the top, you start to see the picture forming. And so it's important for us to be intentional every day, because every time we're intentional, we put another dot in our picture. And every time we're going on autopilot, we're putting another dot in our picture. And so do you want your picture to be something that you want it to look like, or do you want it to be on autopilot and the picture ends up being something that you weren't quite expecting? So that's my little take on living with intention. And we'll go to the next slide.
Yeah, before you move on, Mindy, will you make the comment you did the other day about it's okay to make mistakes?
Yes. So you can look at this. So I like to use this picture in a different way as well. So think about every day that we live with intention, or that we live without intention, we're still putting dots down onto our picture, right? And when we live without intention, we might make mistakes. And so if we think about our mistakes that we make, and usually when I make a mistake, it's because I haven't been intentional that day. It's something that I accidentally did. So if you look here, one dot is one mistake. So if you look at that one dot and then you look at your whole entire life, we can also say that's just one mistake that I made. It's not my entire picture. It's not my entire self. It's just one dot in the million of dots that make up my story, that makes up the picture of my journey, of my story. So you can look at it in two different ways.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So this top part is how will you focus on your strengths and values this week? So thinking about what we just talked about, I'm a big believer in you get what you focus on, you get what you talk about, you get what you think about. If you're focusing on the positive, then you're going to get more of that. If you're focusing on the negative, then you're going to get more of that. So think about what is it that you want more of. And that's why positive psychology is so near and dear to my heart. It's easy to get on autopilot. It happens to me too. But it's important to think about, especially like with Angela, and you're starting to work on your business plan, keeping that in front of you and what it is that you're wanting. You have control over how you behave. Anybody ever say, well, that person made me mad? Well, nobody can make you mad except for you. You get to choose how you react to people. You get to choose how you show up every day. And so what we bring into this world is how we react to our different life events. So you ever heard the adage, life isn't what happens to you, it's how we react to it. And so it's so important to think about that. And then we can live that victim-like mindset. We get to choose. Life is a choice. We can have that victim mindset, or we can have a challenge mindset. So many times I see many people kind of destroying their lives because they have that victim mindset. They never take responsibility for why their life is out of whack and the choices that they made to take them there. And so they just stay stuck. They never move out of that. But if you can change to that challenge mindset, or that there's actually a book out there that's called Mindset, and you can have a fixed or you can have a growth mindset. And my hope for you is that you live every day intentionally and with a growth mindset. And I'm going to pass it on to Kate to close us out.
Thank you, Mindy. And yeah, this is where I would love to bring that conversation full circle, Judith, and really think hard about how we're living and what that looks like in practice. And this you can do for yourself, but I also want you to think about how you might do this for your business and your organization, right? Your organization has values. How you live those values, those behaviors, are what make up your culture. And so it's really important, not just as an individual, but also as a business owner and a leader, as an organization, to understand what those values look like in practice. For instance, I was working in a Fortune 500 where we did a big branding culture program, and fun was one of our values. And we encouraged everyone to start giving high fives in the hallways, and really just like making it a thing of like, this is one of the ways we show fun. Another one was about respect. Okay, there are a million different ways that you can show respect. We chose a couple keystone behaviors of cell phones were left in the middle of a table, whether that was a conference table or a lunch table, right? And so it was a way that we chose every day to show each other respect. And I encourage you to think of your own keystone behaviors for your own values of what are those little rituals and habits that maybe it's okay to put on autopilot. You know, it's okay if you're high-fiving people everywhere, right? Because the keystone behavior was created with that original intention. As Mindy said, I also encourage you to put these around your space, create affirmations, reminding you of who you are and if you're living to those values. Authenticity, while it's something I value, I would say it has not been my strength for a really long time. I've had to practice authenticity very hard the last 2 years for it to become natural for me, just to be me, just to show up as me, right? I had this vision of something I was trying to be all of the time. And so when I started launching, when I shifted my consulting business to my coaching business, I had a little sticky up and it just said, double check, is this you or something you're trying to be? Right? And one of the biggest things I ever did is I created this beautiful PowerPoint presentation. I got to the end of my work session. I looked at the sticky note. I said, well, shit, that's not me at all. Right? The presentation went in the trash. I got out my markers and colored pencils. I made some posters to bring into my workshop. This is the first PowerPoint I've made, you know, in a while because we're meeting this way, right? And so having that check on yourself and making that visible is really good, just to keep yourself in check and to inspire yourself, right? And just challenge yourself. How am I bringing this to the world today, as Mindy said? Does this have anyone thinking anything particular right now about? I'd love to hear from everyone as we close, either chatting it in or, go ahead and unmute of what's one thing you're going to do this week, or what is that new keystone behavior that you want to add to your repertoire? Who's first?
I'll speak up. This is Tiffany. I think one of the things that I've thought of as you're going through this is to give myself permission to invite other values or strengths in that I didn't necessarily give a whole lot of respect or attention to in my previous life. And so as I'm making this transition from something that's been very serious and driven to just allowing myself to have a lot more fun and be loose and let that be okay.
I love that. I love that. Well, and I also love, because like Kate brought out the difference between her and I and how we work so well together because we complement each other. And it's finding those, I may not be strong in something, but I sure can work with somebody that is, and let them show off their talents and their virtues. Excellent. Anybody else?
Any final shares?
This is Lisa. Sorry, I've been challenged with my phone, surprise. So my strengths fall completely either into wisdom or transcendence in those two categories. And I find that I rely a lot on my perspective and my creativity in terms of brainstorming, but sometimes because I want to be very inclusive in my thinking, sometimes am challenged with making the decision, deciding this is the way that I want to move. And I value also not just thinking, but actually taking action. So I think this is the area that I want to work in today, sort of going from conceptualizing and brainstorming and all of that piece to actually deciding on action. I don't know if that makes sense in this context, but it made sense to me.
Yep.
It does. Yeah.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Lisa.
Sure.
I know diving into that virtues perspective has really added a lot for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks.
Anyone else? Final thoughts? We are doing well on our time, guys. I'm impressed.
Yes. So maybe we can just leave today. First of all, we want to thank you for joining us and for listening to us. Okay, this is Kate's thing. So knowing is thinking is being. Knowing is thinking is being. So now we know about our values, then we can think about our values, and then we can live our values, because sometimes we're just not living them. Harmonize for Gestalt, honor and work from values, and live with intention. You decide that I'm going to be intentional today and that I'm going to get some things done, because we feel so much better about ourselves when we're able to do that. And what I would also challenge each of you to do is to put your strengths on one side and your values next to them, kind of like what we did. So you have them out in front of you. So it kind of gives you an idea of, okay, as you get stuck, what value is this? What value is this going up against? But then you can think about what strengths then do I have to help me to combat this. Any final words, Kate?
No, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us and being a part of the conversation. I really believe action creates confidence, and there's no better way to act than yourself and naturally strong. So I know it makes a huge difference. It's made a huge difference for me. And just continuing to take time regularly to recheck my strengths, recheck my values, I think is really important because we do evolve. And we do grow and we do learn and we do put attention into middle and bottom strengths, right? And we do evolve. So, yeah, keep growing. Keep growing, little humans. Yay.
Yay. Thank you all.
Yeah, please reach out if you have any questions. I will be sending a recording of this out to everyone. So if you would like to play again, we encourage you to do that. And if you have any questions, let us know. Or if you'd just like to talk, we like talking to us coaches. So,
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Gillis, Melindo at Mayo.edu.